And we are live. Have fun and best of luck. You have 10 seconds, friends, and there you are.
Okay, thank you. All right, distinguished guests, young leaders from around the world, a warm welcome to you all. My name is Franz George, and I am delighted to welcome you to the Commonwealth Youth Council Executive Elections hosting event, namely for the region of Asia. Um, the Commonwealth Youth Council is one of 13 within the Commonwealth family of youth networks. The CYC is an independent youth organization that represents the 1.4 billion youth across the Commonwealth. Typically, each of them will serve a term of 2 years. That is each of the Commonwealth Youth Council executives. This time, we have 40 candidates who are contesting across these 9 executive positions. Officially nominated national youth delegates from 54 Commonwealth countries are eligible to vote in the election. When elected, the 9 selected executives will form the Executive Council of the CYC, which will be responsible for the CYC's leadership, governance, and strategic direction. Together with the 120 national youth delegates, the CYC will be the voice of 1.4 billion young people of the Commonwealth for the next 2 years, and will be tasked to make the Commonwealth fairer and more sustainable. So today, we will see the candidates running for the position of Asian Region Representative, and they will answer a few questions to provide national youth delegates insights into their thoughts and plans. Now, the regional representatives of Asia will be the main liaison of the region's youth organizations, and the CYC, and the Family Commonwealth Youth Networks. The elected representative should be well equipped with skills such as emotional and especially cultural intelligence, and be able to fully appreciate, embrace, and most importantly, fairly represent the diversity of the entire region. The elected representative will also be responsible to consistently and meaningfully and effectively engage stakeholders across sectors, both formal and informal, as well as international, governmental, and voluntary organizations. The position calls for a candidate who is well-versed and well-aligned with goals of Commonwealth youth development, and who will be able to commit the time and put in the hard and necessary work of day-to-day responsibilities. So at this point, I would like to introduce the candidates for the Asian region position, both coming from the country of Bangladesh. We have Famida Faiza and we have Shomi Chowdhury. Now, before moving on to the substantive and more enjoyable part of the hosting, there are some technical information that we need to provide. So joining me today is the team responsible for all the back-end operations. We have Pega as well as Eileen, and they will handle some things such as the back-end moderator of the session. They will be moderating the chat and keeping check of the time. And during interventions, the candidate will be provided an indication by the back-end team in terms of the remaining time for the answering of their questions. So it's advised that the candidates pay attention to the chats. For the observers and the audience, please use the chat function to ask any questions you may want the candidates to answer. After the first round of questions, we will open the floor for questions specifically asked by you. So use this tool which has been put at your disposal. We'll begin the agenda by asking candidates to introduce themselves in 1 minute. Please, candidates, keep your contribution brief as you'll have more time later to elaborate. Then we'll proceed with 3 pre-decided questions, for the candidates to answer. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the questions. Afterwards, we'll turn towards the third question, which specifically comes from the outgoing Commonwealth Youth Council rep for the region. And once this stage is complete, I will then open the floor for questions specifically asked by the audience, which has been communicated to us through the open chat function. We will end the session with a 2-minute closing speech by each candidate. And I request that the candidates to always keep their camera on unless their internet is being affected by it. And if you're not answering the question specifically addressed to you, keep your microphone switched off, please. So therefore, without further ado, we will move on to the section of the agenda where we invite the candidates to do their introductory remarks. I would like to welcome the first candidate going in alphabetical order, Famida Faiza.
Thank you, Franz. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, Commonwealth family. I am Fahmida Faiza, a 26 years old Bangladeshi youth policy advocate. I come from a legal background, professionally a policy practitioner, and have 16 years of experience in youth work. For most of the times, I have served in representative roles at many different capacities at both national and regional, and also at global spaces. This is my 7th year with Commonwealth Youth Engagement, of which I have worked the last 3 years with CYC Asia Regional Subcommittee with the outgoing Asia Regional Rep. Transitioning through the Commonwealth Youth Networks to the CYC space, I have learned different dynamics, practical challenges, and opportunities. Apart from Commonwealth engagements, I'm currently serving my elected terms with the UN High-Level Steering Committee and with OIC Youth Network. I'm driven by passion of connected Commonwealth and hoping to elaborate more in the next opportunity. I thank you in advance for your valuable time that you are giving to listening to me. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that, Famida Faiza. We now move to the next candidate, Shomi Chowdhury.
Thank you, Franz. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. You may go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everyone watching today's Hustings. My name is Shomi, like show me the money. Hopefully you won't forget my name after this joke. But anyways, I come from beautiful Bangladesh, and I'm vying for the position of the Asia representative at the Commonwealth Youth Council. I am an economics graduate and an incoming Schwarzman scholar. I bring in over a decade-long experience as a youth activist with all-rounded competencies, starting from grassroots level community organizing all the way to policy and advocacy. I'm the founder of a global nonprofit called Awareness 360, which I have been leading from scratch for the past 7 years. And now under my leadership, it's working across 23 countries. As I have worked in the Commonwealth Youth Networks in my capacity as the Asia representative of the Commonwealth Students Association, I have identified some gaps and challenges in the Commonwealth youth space. Moreover, my global connectedness can make avenues to bring opportunities for the youth of Asia and beyond. This is why I'm motivated to contest for this position so I can address those gaps and challenges with my skills, experiences, and networks. Thank you for your time and attention today.
All right, thank you very much for that, Shomi. So now we'll move on to the moment that we all have been gathered here for, the active debate between candidates. As I have briefly outlined at the beginning, there will be 3 predetermined questions for you to answer. You will have 2 minutes each to answer this, and the back-end moderator would indicate to you when your time is running out. I also want to encourage the National Youth Delegates and the audience to start paying keen attention to what these candidates will be saying, to how they answer the questions, as well as the quality and content of their responses as well. So let us first begin the first question. And this will go to Shomi, as you were the last one to speak, followed by Faiza. Identify 3 main challenges within the Commonwealth Asian region that the CYC needs to recognize and tackle. And in doing so, please identify why they are the main challenges in your mind and what the plans are for you to overcome them.
Thank you so much, Franz, for the question. I definitely think that lack of meaningful engagement in the Asia region has been a major challenge in the past years. If you look at the different data that we have, for example, the involvement of the national youth councils in different countries, the presence of a regional youth body in Asian region, we can see that there is a huge gap in meaningful engagement of youth activists and young people in the Commonwealth in the Asian region. And I definitely think that it is important for me to address that challenge once I come across on board in the council. I intend to work with the Vice Chancellor of Policy and Advocacy, who is in charge of membership in the Commonwealth Youth Council. So I definitely want to engage the national youth delegates, for example. Something that I have noticed in particular is once the forum is over, the Commonwealth Youth Forum is over, the national youth delegates come across in the forums and discuss on important policy issues, but then once they're gone and back to their countries, they're not meaningfully engaged until they come back, or a new national youth delegates, set of national youth delegates come back for in the second round. Which is why I definitely want to engage them meaningfully through consultations, quarterly consultations, so that national youth delegates, national youth councils, young representatives of different organizations also come together and they can share what are the issues that they face. And that leads to my second point, which is the lack of representation and advocacy of youth issues. That is also something that we have been hindering in the Commonwealth Youth Council, which I want to actively engage by ensuring a feedback mechanism so that when we are doing those consultations, the national youth delegates and national youth councils actively can say that, okay, these are the issues that they're facing, and that can be represented by linking a bridge with these with the representation of the young people in the government and the relevant stakeholders. The third challenge that I would like to point out is the lack of resources and funding. Now, this is where I think my global connectedness will play a very important role, because definitely the vice chair for the partnership and resources, I have already been discussing with Jaren and James, for example, who are vying for the position in terms of bringing in more funding, financial and non-financial resources for.
All right. Unfortunately, your time is up, but thank you for your response. We'll now go on to the next candidate, Famida Faiza, answering the same question. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Franz, for asking the question. This is a very important question to address. So I would first address the three main challenges. Number one for Asia region is the geopolitical issues that we face in this region. Number two is the funding and resources that Shomi has already mentioned. And number three is the administrative support, lack of administrative support, which is very much prevalent in Asia. So allow me to explain as I go with my experience and personal examples. So geopolitical issue, when we talk about Asia as a region, that was one of the reasons why it took us so long for reaching towards Asian unity, because for the longest time, Asia was the only region in Commonwealth which did not have a regional youth council. So there are existing geopolitical issues that prevented the youth inclusion mechanism. For funding and resources, we have always been underfunded. Youth work has always not been the top priority for the government in this part of the region. So that's why it's very important to engage the government and private stakeholders and engage with the vice chair partnership and resources in this process. And lastly, for the administrative support, I believe that the NYDs of all of these Commonwealth countries can help us together. We can join hands together to overcome the administrative support lackings that is prevalent over here in Asia. So together we can actually bring the change, connect Asia within the countries and also across the regions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. I just want to please ask candidates that as much as possible, please mute your phones, please mute your WhatsApp web or anything else that may make any sort of background noise. We want to ensure that we have the best quality audio as much as possible. Thank you again for the responses to that first question. We now move to the second question. The second question is, there are over 1.4 billion young people across the Commonwealth with a wide range of indigenous backgrounds, as well as many different minorities. Please share your plans on how you will ensure that their views are represented and they are empowered. And please be precise. You will be the first one to answer, Faiza, as you were the last person in the previous question. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Franz, for that question. It is indeed very important that we identify the very specific youth issues, because youth issues for 1.4 billion young people across Commonwealth is variety of them. And when we talk about marginalized and minority youths, or the youths who are facing different kind of challenges in terms of protecting their rights in their own countries, I would like to remember the Aboriginal rights that is being denied in many of the countries. We can talk about the minority rights in terms of breach of human rights in many of the countries. We can also talk about the marginalized youth who are being persecuted by the state actors who are, say for example, Bangladesh has Rohingya refugee crisis from Myanmar. So we see a large number of refugees coming in over here. So personally, I take interest in this. And what I think that how I'm going to mitigate this gap as an Asia rep, firstly, I want to connect with the Vice Chair of Inclusion and Engagement, and co-facilitated by the Vice Chair of Partnership and Resources for the relevant resources. I also want to work with a special interest group representative for having a cohesive approach, that how we can also work not only just a region, but also globally, pan-Commonwealth, to address these issues and challenges. So I believe with that approach, I would be able to establish a CYC, pan-CYC network, and would be able to find out a practical solution in terms of addressing Aboriginal rights, minority rights, and marginalized groups' rights and their well-being. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that response. Over to you, Shomi.
Thank you so much, Franz, for that very important question. And Faiza has very rightly pointed out that it is unfortunately there are so many communities, marginalized communities and minorities who are denied of their basic human rights across the Commonwealth. So I indeed find it imperative for my position to address these challenges and make sure that their voices are represented. Now, I have had the opportunity to work with different marginalized communities, such as the refugees, the people with disabilities, different indigenous communities, the water gypsies, for example. And as I have seen and worked with them, I have seen it myself, how much they suffer in terms of having access to rights, in terms of having access to opportunities. So definitely it's going to be one of my important priorities that I want to address. Now, how I want to do that is I want to first acknowledge who in the Commonwealth Youth Council have the mandate to actually look after these communities. So first of all, the Vice Chair of Inclusion and Engagement, and secondly, the Special Interest Rep. So I'm definitely going to work very closely with these two people. Moreover, I also want to reach out to grassroots organizations who are already working with these communities, because if you think about it, it's just one person or 9 people at the Commonwealth Council, and we are trying to represent 1.4 billion young people. So it is important that we reach out to these existing organizations, existing movements who are already working for the betterment of these minority communities. And I also want to work with different Commonwealth youth networks, such as the Disability Network. For example, by working with them, they have their existing initiatives. I want to amplify their work and work with them in order to identify what are the issues that the young people in these communities are facing, and then try to represent them and advocate for them.
All right, thank you for that response. We're moving on quite quickly, and we'll now be having the third question. The third question is, recount one project that you have led, not supported, that you have led, that has impacted young people. Why do you choose to highlight this project? And share what was your role and your team's role in this project. You may take the floor, Shomi.
Thank you, Franz, for the question. Well, I have led several projects that have benefited young people across the Commonwealth. As I've earlier mentioned in my introduction, that I'm the founder and the chair of this organization called Awareness 360, which really works to amplify young people's voices as well. Just like CYC, it is a nonprofit organization on its own. Awareness 360 is of similar nature. And as I have been developing and leading this organization, I have led multiple projects that have benefited in different capacities to young people. One of them that I would like to highlight as I answer this question is the youth development program that I have been leading, through which we have empowered over 200 young people across 38 countries directly. We have faced a training of trainers approach, We have given them different skills in terms of how to write a project proposal, how to approach for fundraising, how to do impact measurement, how to reach out to different relevant stakeholders, design thinking skills, human-centered approach. We have basically provided them with the skills and the resources that they need to identify issues in their community, and so that they can come up with their own social action project, or they can come up with their own advocacy campaign. Now, how that I want to relay it to the Commonwealth space. If I get elected as the Asia representative, I want to launch this program, and this is something I'm already talking to the Commonwealth Secretariat. It's already in the pipeline, that I want to organize the same youth development program for youth across the Asian region, particularly the different Asia representatives and their Asia subcommittees of different youth networks, as well as the National Youth Council leaders and the National Youth Delegates. And I definitely think, given the feedback that I've received from the youth development program that I've already led, I definitely think that this is going to be extremely beneficial for them in order to build their capacity so that they can represent and voice out their issues to me, which I can take forward to the other relevant stakeholders. Thank you, Franz.
All right, thank you for that. Faiza, can you go ahead and answer the question, please?
Yes, thank you, Franz. I think it's important that we understand what CYC stands for, and I would like to be relevant to that particular area of aspect. So one project I would like to mention is about establishing the National Youth Council in Bangladesh. So Bangladesh and India are the only countries in this region which does not have a National Youth Council. And talking of which, coming from Bangladesh myself, I have actively did the advocacy with the Ministry of Youth and Sports and with the government, lobbied along with the CYC to provide that support and guidance for the government to establish the National Youth Council. So as I come here as well as a government endorsed National Youth Delegate at CYF, I can say that the government has taken interest because of the lobbying that we have done through CYC. So initially we were not supported. It was mostly Qasim Farasad, the outgoing rep, and myself trying to advocate along with the help of the Asia Regional Subcommittee that why it is important, why we should be taking such approach. And I believe that I have had a range of experience in terms of organizing projects, lobbying and advocating at government level, and that experience was particularly helpful. So what I understand that today, as I talk about it, currently the progress has been made. The legislation is now in the Parliamentary Standing Committee, and hopefully very soon we are going to have an NYC established in Bangladesh through this policy advocacy work that I have done. And I believe this is a tremendous project, which is very important for a Commonwealth Youth Council and also for Asian region. So lastly, I would like to say that I would like to use that relevant experience as a Asia regional rep and to take it further. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Faiza. However, I would like to press a bit further because unfortunately, I think one part of the question might have been excluded by both candidates in your answers. The last part of the question is, why do you choose to highlight that specific project? Share what your role was, as well as your team's role in the project. So Faiza, you were the last one to speak. Please elaborate more on those specific parts, please. And show me, as Faiza would have concluded her answer, please go right ahead and elaborate as well, please.
Thank you, Franz. I have mentioned, I believe, that why I chose, because I, as a policy advocate, believe in the mobilization and inclusion of young people's voice in Asia, starting from my own country. So that is why I took the priority in this. I was also part of the national policy dialogues on several youth issues in my country. So I took the interest because this also gives us the baseline for the regional youth council work in Asia. That's why it's very important. And I talked about the team. The outgoing Asia regional rep, Qasim Farasat, has helped me through the process, because or else it was very difficult to reach out to the government. So we utilize the CYC leverage. And also there was this entire Asia regional subcommittee who also provided the support and help. So I'm very thankful to the team and grateful for the support that CYC has provided for me as Asia regional subcommittee. And I believe that this experience would be valuable and transferable for other regions and other NYCs in terms of strengthening, establishing, and also making connections and collaborations to see what are the common challenges, what are the things that we can learn from each other, what are the best practices we can share across Commonwealth, not just only in Asia, because I don't just want to work for Asia as the Asia regional rep. My vision is to connect Asia with the rest of the world. So I believe that answers the question, friends.
Thank you very much. Show me, go right ahead.
Yes, Franz. So the reason why I highlighted that project is because when it comes to the building the capacity of young people, this is something that I believe not every young person or not majority of the young people in the Commonwealth Asia region has been exposed to, which is why I thought that I would like to highlight this project because I've already seen the proven result of this project. For example, countries like Brunei, Singapore, Maldives. Maldives is a very new country that has joined the Commonwealth. The most recent country that has joined the Commonwealth in Asian region. I have had consultation with the previous delegates or representatives from Brunei who have unfortunately has shared with me how they have felt left out. Now, given that in the Commonwealth Youth Council we have, or in the Commonwealth in Asia region, we have only 8 countries. I felt really unfortunate that I had to hear that some of the countries have felt left out when it comes to access to opportunities, when it comes to access to being more engaged in the activities of the Commonwealth Youth Council. Countries like Singapore, for example, which is why I thought that I want to do this project across the Commonwealth in the Asian region, particularly to start off with, so that countries like this or young people, national youth delegates and national youth councils can strengthen their capacity through this program. And on the other hand, my team's role in terms of this project was definitely in terms of, because we have done the entire thing online because of COVID-19, they had to ensure that everyone has access to these the facilities that we were offering, the sessions that we were offering. We had to, my team has brought along different speakers, relevant speakers in terms of the different skill sets that we were discussing. And also they had to ensure that participants don't feel burned out given the amount of the content that we have been providing through this program. Also, the team made a very good point in terms of making sure that we are not coming up with we are making things more accessible in terms of making things more inclusive, and so that participants were considerate of the time zone differences and more, which is why I think that this was.
All right, thank you for that. So that concludes the first section of the hosting so far, answering the 3 predetermined questions. At this point, we would move to the section where the candidates will sort of give intermediary remark. So show me, you last had the mic, you may go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you for this opportunity. Since in the previous contributions, I have talked mostly about my experience in the grassroots level in community organizing, working with different marginalized and minority youth. Right now, I guess I will take this opportunity to speak about my engagement in terms of the policy space. For the audience, I have been serving as the policy lead of the International Task Force for the upcoming Rwanda Commonwealth Youth Forum. What we have been doing is coming up with a policy document with that is as representative and as inclusive as possible. My team and myself, I have been leading my team to do the research, to look into the different regional youth forums that have happened, where young people have expressed their particular interest in some of the core areas. And this document will actually be presented during the Commonwealth Youth Forum, and that the participants, the different national youth delegates, and who will be attending the Commonwealth Youth Forum will be discussing on this document. So as I have been preparing for this document along with my team, I had to engage with different Commonwealth Youth Networks, understand the needs and challenges that they face. On the other hand, I also have significant relevant experience when it comes to policy change. In 2018, for example, I was invited by the Commonwealth Secretary General herself to be an international election observer in the Pakistan general elections, where I successfully passed a recommendation for young people to have greater participation in the electoral process, not just as voters, but in the entire electoral process. And I think that is a huge achievement for me personally, because that is something that was presented to the Commonwealth Secretary General herself, to also the Pakistan Election Commission, as well as it was open for public. And I really think that will go a long way, and the impact of this recommendation that has been passed will really help more democracy in terms of upholding democracy, and the role of youth can play very, very much.
Thank you very much for that. It's now your turn, Faiza. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Franz. I think this is an excellent time for us to put our focus on what we are actually here to host about. So the hosting basically talks about why we are the better choice of candidate for Asia region to represent Asia. And I believe I would like to focus on three things over here. One is background, another is my plans, and another is my expectation. So as my background, I say that I come with solid CYC experience. This is my 7th year working with Commonwealth Youth Spaces. I have worked with 6 different Commonwealth Youth networks. I have learned through my experience of last 3 years working as CYC Asia Regional Subcommittee members, being one of the founding members of the Asia Regional Youth Council itself. I take that understanding and that process that brings us here today. And as for my plans, I have laid them in the manifesto. I believe in the vision of a connected Commonwealth. I want to connect Asia. I just don't want to work for Asia. I want to bridge the gap that has been there in the CYC space for such a long time. And as an expectation, I would want to include all the NYDs and regional representatives through this process, along with the vice chairs. We have 4 regional reps, we have 3 vice chairs, we have the chair representation, which is going to be from Pacific this time. So Asia and Pacific are very well connected. However, we want to get the best practices from across Caribbeans, from across Africa. There are phenomenal youth leaders who needs to be in this process and who needs to be in alignment with Asia. So what I particularly think that I have had experience working as Commonwealth Youth Awards adjudication panel. I have experience being in the Asia Regional Subcommittee, and also Commonwealth Youth Senior Officials meeting in Brunei, which was for the Asia region. I have facilitated the Faith in the Commonwealth training of trainers. I'm well versed in Commonwealth mandate, values, and I have held the Commonwealth belief for such a long time. So this is ideal time for me to take the leadership with all the support from all the NYDs, for all the relevant executives and also the stakeholders. So thank you. That would be it.
Thank you for your intermediary remarks, candidates. We will move swiftly along onto the questions that will now be coming from the audience. And the first question that we have is, one of the main challenges that the outgoing Asian region representative experienced was a lack of support from the vice chairs. Please explain with specific examples, A, from an organizational standpoint, why the support from the vice chairs is needed, and B, in the event that the same issues arise, where you don't receive adequate support from the vice chairs, what are your contingency plans so that you can perform effectively? So let me repeat that again. It's a long question. One of the main challenges that the outgoing Asian region representative experienced was a lack of support from the vice chairs. Please explain with specific examples, A, from an organizational standpoint, why support from the vice chairs is needed, and B, in the event that the same issues arise where you do not receive adequate support from the vice chairs, what are your contingency plans so that you will still perform your role effectively? Faiza, please go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you, Franz. This is a very important question because being part of the Asia Regional Subcommittee, working very close with Qasim, I have seen that some of these challenges are very prevalent for Asia region. One of the lack of support, I think, in the previous executives were that the regional representatives side from Asia was not very much connected in terms of the fact that, if I have to give a specific example for the Vice Chair of Inclusion and Engagement, we have a lot of youth organizations. Asia has the largest young population in terms of the region, but we are just small 8 countries. So we wanted that help for the inclusion and engagement, and I believe that that should be the continued support from CYC with the upcoming executive committee to bridge the gap between the vice chairs and the regional reps are very important, because regional reps on one hand do the legwork, all the groundwork, and it has to be supported by the vice chair partnership in resources, policy advocacy, and inclusion and engagement. So I believe that there were lots of issues in Asia which needed some policy advocacy helps and some partnerships as well to certain extents that could be done better. But however, I believe that there were support as much as possible from the past vice chairs in terms of organizational aspect and in terms of where how I would do the work in terms if I am elected as an Asia rep and I do not get the support, I believe that I would first do my groundwork in terms of establishing a solid Asia regional subcommittee who has past experience, who has familiarity with CYC spaces and Commonwealth youth networks. And I would closely work with the youth networks in terms of leveraging the thematic area of work, more of the niches that we can go for. So that would be it. I learned from the past experiences and I want to acknowledge the limitation and I want to further with my expertise and do my commitments. Thank you.
Thank you. On to you, Shomi. Shomi.
Thank you, Franz. So definitely the role that the vice chairs in the Commonwealth Youth Council will play is definitely integral to making actionizing some of the projects and some of the mandates that we have as regional reps. So I totally acknowledge that, for example, the vice chair for policy and advocacy is supposed to play an important role in terms of making the membership and database of the different regions possible. In terms of the vice chair partnership and resources, for example, the vice chair partnership and resources responsibilities to bring in financial and non-financial resources, making sure that there are partnerships in order to sustain our projects and our campaigns, whatever we are proposing in our different manifestos. Yes, I do acknowledge, and I have spoken to different the previous expos as well, and I have learned that they have faced this problem where maybe they have not received the support that they expected from the vice chairs. Now here is where I think my previous experiences and my competences in terms of bringing more resources come into play. For example, in my own organization, Awareness 360, I have done over 10 projects with my own funding, given that I am well connected with different development agencies. For example, I'm the ambassador of UNDP, of Samsung Global. I've been working closely with the United Nations. I really think that I will be able to bring these more opportunities, even if I don't receive the expected support from the vice chairs. For example, the projects that I have done at Awareness 360 in the past 7 years have benefited over 150,000 people across the world. So I do have this fundraising experience, bringing in resources, making partnership happen. In 2020, I have done a gender-based violence hackathon where I had over 7 partners, and I have managed my own funding and my own resources to make these projects possible. So I'm very confident, given that I have received previous funding and non-financial resources from different organizations, as well as I sit on the advisory board of different committees related to sustainable financing. So I definitely look forward to bringing those competencies and making the best utilization of those skills.
All right, thank you very much for the answers to that question. We're moving at a very good pace. I think that the debate is definitely building up a very good momentum. So without any sort of delay, once more, on to the next question. Question 5. For the role of the Asian region representative, please outline what relevant experience and qualifications don't you have, and how do you intend to compensate for the existing gaps to perform effectively? Over to you, Shomi.
Hello, could you please repeat the question, Franz? You were sort of breaking up.
Okay, let me repeat. For the role of the Asia region representative, please outline what relevant experience and qualifications don't you have, and how do you intend to compensate for the existing gaps to perform effectively?
Thank you. So I guess in this case, I would say that my engagement with the national youth delegates is something that I have missed since I was not part of the Commonwealth Youth Council before. However, how I plan on mitigating that is because as I have been serving an executive position in the Commonwealth Students Association for 3 years since 2018, I have had served a similar role as the Asia representative position in the Commonwealth Youth Council. For example, just like in the CYC Asia Rep, the position requires to engage with national youth councils and national youth delegates. Similarly, in the CSA position, I had to relay information I had to represent the needs and aspirations of the national student organizations, for example. So I do have, even though I don't have direct engagement with the national youth delegates thus far, I do have similar experience as I have served an executive position in the Commonwealth Students Association. For example, my regional subcommittee that I have led had representation from India, from Pakistan, from Sri Lanka, from Malaysia, from Bangladesh. And what I have done is I have led them in terms of continuing the engagement, meaningfully engage the different national student unions and national student organizations. Just to give you an example, in India, our team, there is an 18 members India committee where they are representing and they're working with the governments directly in different policy space, and they're representing 18,000 young people and students in India. So I definitely think that even though I don't have that direct experience, I will utilize my previous experience as the CSA Asia rep to mitigate these shortcomings in my if I am elected at office. Thank you.
All right, on to you, Faiza.
I believe it's very important that we identify our weaknesses as we want to showcase our strength. So thank you, Franz, for that question. I believe what I do not have, because I'm an on-ground policy advocate, so I have been doing more of the on-ground work for most of the times. I come from legal background, so I do not have much experience in terms of auditing and financial reports. So I believe that the executive committee member, as that, I also have that obligation to make. So I have three main ways to solve that problem. That is one, to take the help of the past reports that is already existing by the past executive council members, so that I learned from what has happened and how to do it with the best practices. Number two is to take help from the ComSec. The secretariat itself can guide me through the process because we are in the consultative status with the ComSec. And then third is to have a dedicated person who has financial knowledge and who is an expertise, like, you know, someone from CA background or someone from that background in the Asia Regional Subcommittee who can actively be there for my support. And I think my strengths also come here into play because I'm very well connected within the National Youth Delegates Network. For next 2 years, I'm also the National Youth Delegate for Bangladesh. I have worked closely before last 3 years with the National Youth Delegate, so I can also channel that. I'm very well connected. For 2/3 of my life, I have advocated for the youth advocacy. I started my own organization as young as 16 years old. So that comes with a lot of experience of on-ground activities. And I believe with the right help on auditing and financial matters, that can be a very well team that I can put forward for Asia and for CYC.
All right, thank you very much for that, Faiza. The next question, sixth question, is both of you seem to be very occupied with multiple engagements already. How will you manage time for CYC activities? Please go ahead, Faiza.
Yes, so thank you, Franz. That's an excellent question because CYC, this particular role requires 20 hours per week as an allotment. However, working with the subcommittee, I have seen that the previous regional rep has committed more time than that was described for this role. So coming with a background, so I'm professionally working with South Asian Football Federation. So if you know, the Ministry of Youth and Sports in Asia are almost led by the same minister. So that particular professional aspect gives me some leverage to pull over there because in terms of connectivity, in terms of time commitment, I would say that this is my lifestyle. I have started, I'm 26 years old. I have started when I was 10. This is 2/3 of my life working in this area. So this is not a new thing for me. I have been actively managing the time zone differences all across the world. I'm part of the 4 global youths representing ICMEO, which is one of the largest youth organizations all across the world in the UN High-Level Steering Committee. I am also serving different roles. So I have always been multitasking. Even as a student, I was leading my own organization and doing a lot of groundwork. So in the limitation, I would also like to say that a lot of personal commitment in terms of family events and attending with friends, hangouts, those get compromised, but I'm more than happy to do that because I have a larger commitment and a better space to serve the youth for Asia as a young person myself. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that, Faiza. We now move on to Shomi for your response to the question.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I think that's a very good question and a very valid concern, given that I'm very much well connected and I'm representing multiple. I'm wearing multiple hats as I have been serving different roles in different national and international organizations. However, juggling multiple commitments has already been a habit for me, so I'm very much used to it. As a matter of fact, even though CYC Asia Rep role requires 20 hours per week, I have been actually dedicating 30 hours per week for the Commonwealth Students Association as the Asia representative. So what I plan to do is shift, as I'm the outgoing executive for the Commonwealth Students Association, I want to delegate that time that I have been giving to CSA for the last 3 years to the CYC for the next 2 years. And as a matter of fact, as I have also started my activism journey very early on when I was very young, and even in my university days, I have been doing my organizational work. I was also serving different other organizations, doing extracurricular activities, plus continuing my education, maintaining a good CGPA. As a matter of fact, I was the first student in the history of my university to finish my graduation in economics in 2.5 years, whereas it's a 4 year course. So I do have the tendency to take as much pressure as possible. So I'm very much happy to take on this new role because it is nothing new for me.
All right. Thank you very much for that, then. We would move on to the next question. The next question is to both candidates. If you were to be elected for this position, do you plan on engaging your contesting colleague? If so, what skills, strengths, and expertise do you plan to tap on? Go ahead, show me.
Franz, I'm sorry, you were breaking up again. Could you repeat, please?
Okay, so the question is, to both candidates, if you were to be elected for this position, do you plan on engaging your contesting colleague? If so, what skills, strengths, expertise do you plan to tap on?
Is it possible to write the question in the chat because you are still breaking up in the first few words? To tap on the expertise of?
Okay, let me repeat again. To both candidates, if you were to be elected for this position, do you plan on engaging your contesting colleague? If so, what skills, strengths, or expertise do you plan to tap on?
Got it. Thank you so much, and apologies for asking you to repeat the question. I guess my internet is a bit unstable. Anyways, all right. I definitely think that my contesting colleague Faiza has a lot of experiences that can be tapped into. So definitely, I do look forward to working with her if I do get elected at office, because I believe in collaboration. And I think something that I very much appreciate and love about Fahmida Faiza is her ability to brand herself very well. And this branding ability is something that will come very handy when it comes to doing some advocacy campaigns or talking to different stakeholders. So definitely, I would like to make the right use of her branding ability and work together in making some of the visions a reality for the Commonwealth Youth Council.
All right, thank you. Faiza, please go ahead.
Thank you for the question, friends. First, I would definitely, from here through this hosting, I officially want to extend my invitation in case if I lose, I want to work with Shomi because she's a fellow Bangladeshi for the first time. She's a woman, so she has my support, and she would get all my support as an NYD of Bangladesh as well. So this is an opportunity. CYC is an opportunity to mobilize the young people. This is not a place for 40 candidates are running. This is not a place for bargaining within each other. This is the platform for bargaining for the youth interest, for the youth agenda. And I have been through the London election. I have never quit. I'm not a quitter. I have always been a builder. I have always connected. And that's why I say Faiza for Connected Asia, because I have always connected with the right sort of people with right values and alignment. So I believe that Shomi, working with CSA for last 3 years, has the experience in the Asia region, that what are the students' interests in youth, in terms of youth work. So that I can definitely leverage on. And I personally believe that this role is not a one person's job. I would definitely need a team. I would definitely need support. Asia as a region is very vast, so it's very important to work together. And as a person, I always believed in inclusion, because I think that is one of the key leadership essential capabilities that this election is not the end of everything. Perhaps it's the beginning of a new journey. And as I have said, that as a fellow Bangladeshi woman, I have my fullest support and solidarity, because I know what it takes for a woman in Bangladesh to come up, to stand out among the 200 million of people in Bangladesh. And I therefore come with my personal experience, and I would like to include my fellow contestant, and in fact all the other candidates who are also running for this position. Some of them have excellent profiles. I would like to leverage their partnership. I have been enjoying this whole time of connecting with them. So thank you, Franz. I hope that answers the question.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much. Now, we are going on now to the next question, which is question 8. Given you might have to secure funding to implement some of your plans, do you have any previous experience in securing grants and funding? Please go ahead, Faiza.
In terms of securing grants and funding, the first experience for me comes with running my own nonprofit organization. So I was 16 years old when I started my own nonprofit organization. And thank you, Franz, because this question actually shows that how much credible we are in terms of leading the region, which has a lack of support and lack of resources in terms of funding. So I particularly believe that my experience working as a grassroots level activist here comes of utmost help, because I know what it feels like working as a person without any support. And I also have been actively connected with the government and also private stakeholders within my last 16 years of youth work profile. So I have seen the challenges that it puts for lack of funding, and I acknowledge that, and I want to overcome that with my expertise and with my understanding of CYC space. Again, CYC is a place for representation. CYC is a place where we speak up, we harness the voice, we come together to as one Commonwealth, we represent the voice of the right platform. And working within my own nonprofit has taught me that how, despite of the challenges, I can break through, I can move forward. And I believe in CYC space, I want to translate that experience with the help of everyone, especially the NYDs of the respective governments and the upcoming Executive Council. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that, Faiza. On to you, Shomi.
Thanks to the audience, whoever has asked this very critical question, because generally we have seen that in the past, there is a misconception that CYC is dependent on Commonwealth Secretariat, for example, for funding or this kind of resources, whereas it is really, in terms of we have our own constitution, it is its own entity, and it is supposed to be independent and not reliant on any other bodies for funding or other non-financial resources. So it is very important that us as regional reps bring that capacity and that competence to actually bring the funding and the other non-financial resources to, of course, with close collaboration with the Vice Chair for Partnership and Resources to bring funding in order to make the projects and plans a reality. So in terms of my personal experiences previously, in terms of gaining fund, for example, for my own organization, Awareness 360, I have received funds from UNDP. Most recently, I have gotten a fund from Democracy Moves, which is a Johns Hopkins University initiative. Not once, but I have gotten twice grants from the US State Department. Again, not once, but twice I've received grants from the Switzerland-based organization Global Change Makers. And it's not just about receiving funds before and having connection, but it is also knowing how to approach the potential donor or funder. What are the sort of content that we need to present? How do we leverage some of our current vision with the organizations that we are approaching. And as a matter of fact, for my skills and competencies, I have also been sitting in the Global Students Forum Standing Subcommittee on Sustainable Financing, where we are working with the Malala Foundation, Ford Foundation, Shawn Mendes Foundation, Open Society Foundations, Bill and Melinda Gates, and many other important donors, Open Society Foundations, Guerrilla Foundation, and the list goes on. So I think it really goes to show that I do have not only the connections or previous experiences in terms of gaining successful fundraising, but also having the skills and the competencies to knowing how to leverage on those partnerships and connections. Thank you, Franz.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to go back to a previous question as per the request of the audience. They were not satisfied with the responses given by both candidates. So I'll repeat the question. The audience has expressed a need for a repeat. Once more, the audience has expressed a need for a repeat. It's a question about having multiple engagements and being able to manage time for CYC activities. They're pressing to find out, will you dedicate enough time to the CYC role, and tell us how you will do that? Be specific. Please go ahead, show me.
Thank you. As I have already mentioned in my previous contribution, that I already have been spending 30 hours per week for the Commonwealth Students Association. So it is not just a plan or a vision for myself, but this is something that already I have been allocating a certain time in my calendar for the CSA activities. And given that I'm the outgoing executive, I'm leaving that role. I won't have that engagement anymore, even though I will be helping or volunteering the network in terms of giving advice. However, I look forward to contributing or just shifting that same 30 hours or more if required to the CYC position if I'm elected at office. So in terms of planning my time, I won't have a full-time job. I will be starting my master's program in global affairs in Tsinghua University. So I will be focusing fully on my master's work and as well as the CYC work. So I don't think any other major commitment that is coming in the next 2 years that can come in my way in terms of contributing to the CYC platform. So I'm very much dedicated. Plus, when it comes to things that I genuinely care about and I feel very passionately, deeply about, I think I do make sure that I find the time to do it. That is something that I've seen in my previous engagements for my organization, for the other different commitments that I have made. And I am very conscious in terms of making a commitment. So before I signed up for this election, I made sure that I actually do have the time and the capacity to contribute to this role, because I don't like taking up a position and sitting there and doing nothing, which is why I'm very confident that I will be able to provide the time that is required for the role. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Over to you, Faiza.
Right. So thank you, Franz. I first would like to engage the audience with the fact that for last 3 weeks, we have been doing the campaign. And I am currently running on Commonwealth time zone. So there is no Bangladesh time zone for me. I am up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., available over call, available over messages to all the NYDs. And who are not even the NYDs, I am available to listen from them and to engage with them and their ideas. So I'm running on Commonwealth time zone. I very much appreciate the fact that how we can work together. And in terms of multiple engagement, I want to here identify 2 different facts. Is that I am not studying full time. So my work experience that I'm having right now, my job, that is very essentially hand to hand with the current responsibility, because I am currently heading 7 South Asian countries in terms of policy work that I do professionally, and that is very much linked with the Ministers of Youth and Sports. So that's one thing that gives me the leverage in terms of my work engagement with UN High Level Steering Committee and OIC. That ends by this year's November. So that gives me that additional time not to allocate for anything else, but to solidly give it for CYC. And lastly, I would mention that I already have the existing network. I don't have to start working from the scratch because I worked in the Asia Regional Subcommittee. So electing me would mean that I have done the groundwork. I don't have to go back and take a back step. I can continue from there, and that would save a lot of time in the process for this 2 years tenure. Thank you, friends, and thank you to the audience.
All right, thank you very much for that. We now move on to the next question. The next question is, for both candidates, you shared about your involvement and also many existing gaps in the current Commonwealth system. What are your direct contributions to filling these gaps in your respective, years of involvement? Please be specific. Please go ahead, Faiza.
Thank you, Franz. I here would like to take a reflection on my manifesto. If you look at my manifesto, that is based on six different thematic areas. I understand and acknowledge that there are a variety of youth issues that we want to address. And that is why I do not want to have any personal commitment of delivering one or two programs. I would rather want to have a practical approach. And I do acknowledge the gaps that has been there. So the outgoing Asia regional representative was not very much successful in terms of engaging the national youth delegates. And 8 countries in Asia need a cohesive voice, need a platform like CYC where they can all come together and their concerns are heard. So I want to have monthly meetings. I want to have weekly follow-ups. Everyone is just connected to internet, is just one text away, one call away. It's not difficult to take 20 minutes of your day and check up with the NYDs. That is what I want to do. And that has been the gap of the past executive committee. And in my manifesto, I have talked about health, mobility, outreach, inclusion, and research as my, and sustainability as my 6 main pillars. And I want to dedicatedly focus on that. I would like to take particular attention in terms of my vision. I believe in connecting, collaborating, and cooperating. And I believe that this, as I say, that this is not a one person's job. As Asia Regional Rep, our responsibility is not just to connect in Asia, but also connect across regions. We have to harness the voice. We have to
Hello, Faiza. Hello. Okay, it seems that we may have been disconnected from Faiza or the other way around. Faiza, are you there?
Sorry, I think my internet connection.
Yes, you have some seconds remaining. Please continue. You have 20 seconds remaining. Please continue.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So I was talking about how we can connect with the regions, connect the NYDs, and strengthen, take a holistic approach, not only just for Asia, but also pan-Commonwealth, and mitigate the gap that has been there. Not connecting with NYDs, not connecting across regions, not having multilateral and bilateral engagement within CYC space. Thank you.
Okay, show me on to you.
Thank you, Franz, for the question. So some of the challenges that I have found out, or I have figured out in my experience in serving the Commonwealth in the past many years, is that there is a lack of capacity building for young people. And for that, and also in terms of the SDG implementation, many of the SDGs that we talk about regularly are not really implied on the young people, which is why I have done several initiatives. I've led and supported several initiatives, such as the YES program, which is the Youth Employability Skills Program, which also relates to my policy priority that I have shared in my manifesto in terms of youth entrepreneurship and employment, is the lack of employability skills. There are thousands of graduates coming out every year, but they're not getting jobs. They're unemployed. Why? Because there is a gap between the skills that they have and then the skills that the employers require. So I have done a program on that. I have done different youth development programs, and also some of my policy priorities. And I have seen that there is a clear lack of collaboration with different stakeholders. Something that my esteemed colleague Faiza has mentioned previously in one of her contributions is that Asia Pacific is connected. I respectfully disagree with that, because Asia Pacific is not connected, and which is why I intend to work with Shagufta, for example, who is vying for the position of the Pacific rep. I have spoken to the current outgoing Pacific rep of the Commonwealth Youth Council as well, and I have already gotten their feedback in terms of how disconnected Asia and Pacific is, but I would like to acknowledge the potential there is in order to mitigate those gaps. So some of my policy priorities that I have laid in my manifesto, for example, the first one is entrepreneurship and youth employment, where I would like to bring in more upskilling and reskilling opportunities for young people, bringing in more funding for young people, for bringing in an entrepreneurial culture in the Asia Pacific region by closely working with the Pacific rep. For example, I'm very well connected with the CEO of Startup Bangladesh Limited, and Startup Bangladesh Limited have already been doing different funding opportunities, accelerators for entrepreneurs, not just within Bangladesh or within Asia region, but beyond that. And these are the connections, the the global connections that I have, I want to bring in and leverage in order to address some of these issues, especially after COVID-19 when young.
All right, thank you for your responses, everyone. I will want to press a bit further with this particular question so that it can be answered a bit more adequately. So let me please rephrase again. The question is, you have both shared about your involvement, and also existing gaps in the current Commonwealth system. What were your direct contributions to filling those gaps in the Commonwealth system in your respective years of involvement within that Commonwealth system? Please be specific. Show me, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Franz. So since I've already talked about entrepreneurship and youth employment previously, now I would like to highlight the need for greater collaboration among the youth networks for different policy priority areas that I have been talking about. So for example, global citizenship and peace building is something that I'm actively championing ever since I've started working for the Commonwealth. And given that we are so diverse, Commonwealth in itself, even Asia in itself is so diverse, given the differences that we bring in, that we see in South Asian countries and Southeast Asian countries. I have lived in Malaysia for 3.5 years. And of course, I'm born and brought up in Bangladesh. I have seen the differences very well as I have traveled across and worked with young people from all these different countries. And something that I have seen that is very much evident is a lack of global solidarity. We need to champion this diversity. We need to embrace the diversity and be more tolerant towards each other's differences. So something that I have done in the past, for example, to mitigate this gap is organizing different cultural exchange events. For example, while I was in Malaysia, in partnership with the Sports Association of Malaysia, the Hockey Federation of Malaysia, and the Commonwealth Students Association, I've organized a sports exchange program. In Sri Lanka, my subcommittee member has done a youth walk where they talked about each other's different religions, their traditions, their cultures. It was an interfaith dialogue that came across with a walk. So these are the different activities that I have done to champion global citizenship, Commonwealth citizenship, and peace building in the region so far. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. On to you, Faiza.
Thank you, Franz, for the question. For involvement and existing gaps in current Commonwealth system, I would say that this comes from our realities that we are sharing right now, the practicalities that we face. And over here, I would like to mention that for all the Commonwealth countries, no matter how diverse we are or how connected we are, we all have our own realities to face. So what essentially works for Sri Lanka not essentially works for Bangladesh, or what essentially works for Pakistan does not essentially work for India. So this is very important to understand that our priorities are different, our realities are different. And also this is not just different across Asia, this is also different across cross-region. But here is one thing I would like to say, that despite of our differences, we have a lot of things to connect. Pacific faces the biggest obstacle in terms of the connectivity, in terms of internet, and we can introduce zero internet by the government to provide all of this support. Africa faces a lot of these challenges in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of getting the resources. We can work on that. So in terms of mitigating the existing gaps, I think there has never been a cross-regional approach or a bilateral approach. Say, for example, we did not ever have an Asia-Africa dialogue. We never had an Asia and Pacific consultation process. So while working in the Faith in the Commonwealth training of trainers as one of the trainers for Asia region, I have seen that there are regional consultations, but there has never been a pan-Commonwealth consultation on this process. So I believe that if elected, I want to mitigate those gaps and take the next step, because regional works are happening, but we are not connecting the regions. That is one thing I want to address and mitigate. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that, Faiza. We will move on now to the next question. The next question being, what are your work related to UN SDGs, and how do you plan to leverage CYC's ECOSOC status at the UN? What are your work related to UN SDGs, And how do you plan to leverage CYC's ECOSOC status at the UN? Please go ahead, Faiza.
Thank you for the question, friends. I believe my practical experience currently, I'm serving the elected terms. I am one of the 4 global youths in the involvement process of the United Nations to draft the action plan of all the 194 member states of United Nations, that how the youth strategy of 2030 would be implemented at the national level by the UN country teams, and how the youth inclusion would be incorporated in the process. So I am very closely working with the New York office of the UN Secretary General's Youth Envoy, Jayatma Wickramaniyake, and I want to leverage the CYC's ECOSOC status, making sure that there are sideline events that we are hosting, because the last ECOSOC Youth Forum had the sideline event hosted by the outgoing Asia Regional Rep, Mr. Kasim. So I would also want to take that precedence and wanted to take that further. Also, it is very important to acknowledge that right now I am serving ICMEO. ICMEO is one of the co-organizers of ECOSOC Youth Forum. So I particularly think my experience working with ICMEO comes with a lot of advantage to put CYC in the right places, in the priority line, and most importantly, working closely with the UN SDGs. I am a peace advocate. I am an SDG believer. I am an SDG defender, not in my country, not in my region, but also globally. And I am one of the young people who is actually guiding the United Nations that how SDGs can be better implemented, and how young people, young or youth organizations all across the world should be involved. So I can bring that value to Commonwealth with my involvement with UN High Level Steering Committee, with the ICMEO process, and also with my CYC role if elected. Lastly, I would like to mention that it is important we try to pin down that what are our priority areas, because last CYC Executive Committee was focusing on 10 priority areas. So we have to understand what are the core values aligned with the ECOSOC Youth Forum, because every ECOSOC Youth Forum has a theme to deliver and to go for. So we can be on the right alignment and move forward with that. Thanks.
Thank you very much. On to you, Shomi.
Thank you, Franz, for giving me the opportunity to answer this question. I think this is my favorite question so far, because I am a huge supporter of the Sustainable Development Goals. As a matter of fact, I am personally championing SDG 6, clean water and sanitation, through my organization Awareness 360. As a matter of fact, all the projects that are done in Awareness 360 by the over 1,500 young people across 23 countries in 3 continents, they have been doing projects in line with the different UN SDGs, not just clean water and sanitation, but all 17 of them. As a matter of fact, I'm very happy to share with the audience that last year I was selected as Asia Pacific's first UNDP Samsung Global Ambassador as one of the champions of the Sustainable Development Goals. So I have been very closely involved with the whole UN SDG space. I have been working with UN Women in Bangladesh, with UN Women, the main office, the UNDP headquarters, UNDP Asia Pacific, UN ODC, and many other UN bodies, UNICEF, etc. And I think how I would like to leverage the CYC's ECOSOC status at the UN is, yes, of course, doing sideline events and representing the youth of the region's aspirations and needs and their voice, representing that at the Youth Forum, at the ECOSOC Youth Forum is very important. I agree, but something that I personally, being a doer, having that mentality or mindset to walk the talk, I will ensure that whatever is discussions is done in these forums, such as the ECOSOC Youth Forum, these are followed up. There is an accountability so that we make sure that these are not just limited to a report or a declaration, but are actually applied in the ground. So that will be one of my priorities if I'm elected at office.
All right. Thank you very much for that. The next question. As an elected member to CYC, it is imperative to remain independent and impartial. What steps will you take to ensure that you are not politically or locally biased? Can you inform us if there is any conflict of interest that we need to know about? That's for you, Shomi.
Franz, could you repeat the question, please? The first line got cut off.
As an elected member of CYC, it is imperative to remain independent and impartial. What steps will you take to ensure that you are not politically or locally biased? Can you inform us if there is any conflict of interest that we need to know about?
That is a very, very important question. Well, in terms of having any conflict of interest in such capacity, I would like to say no. And how to remain unbiased or impartial when it comes to working with young people and representing young people in such a big space, it is very important that we remain impartial. For example, as I have been leading the Commonwealth Students Association Asian region, CSA is a political organization, so I had to constantly be mindful that I'm not being biased, whatever activities or campaigns that I'm leading. Whenever I'm representing the students of the Commonwealth, I'm very much mindful that I'm not being biased or going political in any way. So I already have been practicing that, which I intend to bring towards my role in CYC as well. And also, given that I even though I know that I have such competencies, I also don't want to, I'm very much self-aware that I cannot do this alone. So I will have my subcommittee members. And as I mentioned earlier, that I will be doing regular consultations with the national youth delegates, or quarterly consultations, so that I know that if I am going in the wrong direction in any way unintentionally, there are people in my team who will be telling me where I'm going wrong or how I can change. I am very much adaptive to people's feedback using the start, stop, continue model. So I'm very much confident that I will be able to serve a role with in a very unbiased way. Thank you.
All right, over to you, Faiza.
Thank you, Franz. This is an important question because Commonwealth and CYC itself is the most diverse representation of young people and diverse representation of all the states, be it a small island state or be it a economically developed country. It is the platform to give everyone an equal voice. So it is very important that we understand the value as an executive committee member, as we are vying for this position, that the importance of being impartial and not discriminate anyone. Personally, in my personal journey, I have been discriminated for the color of my skin. I have been discriminated for my different other identities, be it religious or many other sectors. So I know how it feels to be discriminated. And coming from that experience, I would ensure in my 100% of best of capabilities that I do not put anyone through the same experience that I have gone through in my personal journey of last all of these years as a youth advocate. As an independent person working and heading the entire Asia region, I believe it's very important to take the guidance from all of the CYC, all of the Commonwealth Youth Network, and also from the Commonwealth Secretariat itself, because we are in the consultative status. We need to seek guidance time to time, and I would definitely be guided by all of the Commonwealth values that are aligned. And lastly, I would like to mention that there were different times I have served as a national youth delegate, as a independent candidate. I have served in different level roles, and I have performed them with due diligence, without taking a side, voicing the young people, because I believe over everything, I'm a human, I'm a youth, I have a greater voice to showcase rather than just my own country or my region. I have a greater responsibility on my head, and I commit to take that further with due diligence and with no discrimination at all. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the next question very quickly. What do you think needs to be done to better include young people living with disabilities and other minorities in policy and programs in Commonwealth countries? What role do you think the CYC can play? Please go ahead, Faiza.
Thank you for the question, Franz. I believe people with disabilities and young people who are in minorities, minority rights in the marginalized communities are very much in the forefront and should be in the focus, because they are not highlighted through the government processes, through youth organization mechanism, through the CYC process itself. We have a special interest group representative just open very recently. I mean, if you see the CYC executives status, like the whole executive committee structure from the first beginning in 2013, this role was never there. So that means that CYC understands the importance of a special interest rep. And that's why I would like to commit my engagement strongly with the special interest rep, talking of the persecuted minorities, the Hazaras in Pakistan who are being, who are facing genocide, who are facing mass killings. the people in Africa who are being denied of their rights. There are very much tribal discrimination happening all around in the grassroots level of societies. The people in Pacific who do not have a right to defend their Aboriginal rights and their voices. So I think there are very many areas, but overall, the people with disabilities, with mental health condition, because mental health is such a taboo in all across Commonwealth. And as a mental health advocate, I wanted to take that commitment forward, that we need to have an inclusive Commonwealth as much as we need a connected Commonwealth. And we can only be connected if we have our inclusive agendas joined together and push forward. So I would do my 100% with the Vice Chair Inclusion and Engagement and the Special Interest Rep with this position of CYC Asia Rep, and also working with the other regional reps. Thank you, friends.
All right. There's a follow-up question coming from the audience in relation to the previous question about conflict of interest. The feedback that we're getting is that persons are saying that between both candidates, you have all worked with CYC or are a part of, all have worked with Commonwealth Youth Networks or are a part of those networks. You also have worked with or are a part of other international and regional youth organizations. And you guys have even worked with or have relations to the government. So in your role, how would you ensure that there is not a conflict of interest between your role as CYC and your roles or relations to these other organizations? And how will you ensure that you put the CYC's priorities first? We will go with Show Me.
Thank you, Franz. I have not answered the previous question either. So should I answer both at the same time?
Oh, my bad. Please go ahead answering the previous question, and then you will go ahead and answer the second one, but please make a distinction in terms of when you're finished answering the first and when you would go ahead with the second. My apologies for that.
No problem. Yes, so I think it's extremely important that we make our agenda, our initiatives in the Commonwealth Asian region and beyond across the Commonwealth more inclusive and more representative. And this is something I have been personally championing in my work outside the Commonwealth as well. So, for example, when I work on the sanitation and hygiene space in terms of menstrual hygiene, I make sure that we are talking about inclusive facilities. For example, during COVID-19, we were all talking about hand washing stations, for example, but are all hand washing stations accessible for people with disabilities? When we talk about menstrual hygiene and menstruation, we use the terms girls and women, but is that really being inclusive? So I'm very cautious in terms of using gender neutral and inclusive terms such as menstruator or people who menstruate. So these are some things that I have already been championing from a very young age. So I definitely think that this is something I will be very much cautious in terms of when I'm doing such programs, policy and programs in Commonwealth countries. I will be making sure that I include young people living with disabilities and other minorities by closely working with a special interest rep. Also with a vice chair of policy and advocacy who is in charge of membership, because when we are working with partnering with different grassroots level organizations, I will actively be looking for those organizations who are usually left behind or communities who are usually forgotten or the last mile communities to reach out to them and make sure that they are engaged. Especially when it comes to a digital divide, not everyone has access to online activities or technology. So I need to be mindful that I am reaching out to local contributors, local community organizers who are in touch with them so that they can relay these opportunities and information to them and make sure that their voice is also heard.
All right. So just for the benefit of you guys, I'd repeat the last question. And once again, apologies for cutting you off. I really thought that you would have answered already. I lost track. Sorry again. But as I was mentioning before, the audience has a concern. Their concern is, and it's in relation to the question about conflict of interest that was asked before. They are saying, or at least one specific person is saying, that from their observations, both candidates have worked with or are a part of other Commonwealth youth networks. Both candidates are a part of or have worked with other international and regional youth organizations. And both candidates in some way or the other have worked with or have close ties to the government. Their question is, in light of those things, how are you guys as candidates, I mean, as elected reps, if you are elected reps, sorry, how would you guys ensure that the CYC remains independent from all external influence? And how would you secure the CYC's interest and put that first? So please go ahead, show me.
Thank you for repeating the question, Franz. And I think it's a very valid concern, given that I and my fellow contestant also bring different kinds of engagements with other organizations and other youth networks. But I think I would like to focus more on the similarities rather than the differences. Of course, there will be differing opinions in terms of the different youth networks, at least in terms of the youth networks, because I think even though we all different youth networks, for example, the SciGen is working on gender equality, SciPan is working on peace building. So I don't see a much direct chance of conflict because we all are working for an inclusive, a fairer Commonwealth. However, I, as a person, am very much strong when it comes to my values and when it comes to my integrity. I will definitely keep my prioritize the Commonwealth Youth Council's agenda, vision, and mandate at the top of things whenever I am liaising with other external parties, because this is what I am representing. And I am representing not just myself, but 1.4 billion young people. So that is a huge responsibility that I am voluntarily taking. So I would like to make sure that I withhold to the weight of that position. So I will be very mindful. Plus, as I have earlier stated, that I will make sure that my committee is very strong and is very well represented. My subcommittee who are brought in from different countries, just as I have done in my CSA subcommittee, I will do the same in CYC, so that I make sure that everyone is well represented and not any objective that goes opposite of our personal vision and mission does not come into play when it comes to our programs and our activities.
All right, thank you. On to you, Faiza.
Thank you, Franz. That's a very important question because it's very crucial to keep the things separate while doing the collaboration. Since I actually personally bring the collaborative approach, I am very much aware how to keep the things separate. So if we look at CYC does not have a specialized niche to go for, does not have a specialized area of work, unlike the other youth networks, right? So that is why it's very important to engage the youth networks. We have 13 youth networks and CYC is one of them, to engage within the process, you know? So we have seen previously I Am Able campaign, we have seen the Commonwealth Women Mentorship Scheme, which was in partnership with SciGen. We have seen the youth networks actively contributing to the development process of CYC, and that is very crucial. So now coming with my personal journey, I have previously had engagement with SciPan, Commonwealth Youth Peace Ambassadors Network, with Commonwealth Common Ties and Diaspora Network, like overall 6 different Commonwealth youth networks before I transitioned to CYC. So my work of first 3 years of Commonwealth started with the Commonwealth Youth Networks, and then I transitioned to CYC. So I understand the role and the distinction and the limitations and also the opportunities to bring. And working in terms of global engagement, when I am part of the UN consultation process, I have met Lucy over there, who is part of the Commonwealth Youth Network and who has represented the Commonwealth voice over there. So I believe this is important, that we pass down the opportunities. We have a shared network where we can all benefit and connect from each other, because apart from Commonwealth, we all are global citizens. So I see this is not my weakness. This is not what limits me. This is not my limitation. This is rather my strength, that I can offer so much with my global engagement in so many different levels, with government, outside government, with private stakeholders, and all international level platforms. Thank you, friends.
All right, thank you very much. We're actually coming close to the end of the hustings. We'll now move into the penultimate question. After that, we will ask the final question. Once our questions would have been asked, both candidates would have the opportunity to give conclusive remarks. Then I would give the final statements and we will end. So the next question is, how can the CYC work together with the youth networks to better address pressing issues? And I think this question follows quite well, given the answers from the previous question. So yes, please, can you go ahead, Faiza?
Thank you. As I have done previous answer, I have mentioned that how important it is to have the youth networks integrated and involved in the process. I cannot emphasize the election observers of the Commonwealth is also includes the Commonwealth Human Rights and Democracy Network. How in the entire Commonwealth process, not just within the youth network, in the entire Commonwealth process, when we represent the youth, it's all of the 13 network that put forward the cohesive youth approach. And it's very important that we work together. The past outgoing executives have done that. Nafula, the Vice Chair for Policy Advocacy, she has relaunched the Women's Mentorship Program in 10 African countries. With Saijan, Abena has led the partnership and resources and done a lot of work in terms of sanitation, waste management, and all of these areas which were not really addressed before. Darian, Inclusion and Engagement, worked on the mental health campaign. So I would take the best practices and the work that has been done already by the past CYC executives, and I believe to build up on that as we go for the next 2 years of tenure, because I have that, as I have said, that I have the solid understanding of what CYC stands for, what the youth network stands for, how CYC works, how the youth networks operates. So I would like to take that approach and work with everyone together, not just the NYDs, not just the government, but also the Commonwealth Youth Networks, who are equally our shared stakeholder in this youth space. Thank you, friends.
All right. On to you. Show me.
Thank you, Franz. So in terms of, if you take a look at my manifesto, I have highlighted 5 policy priority areas, and for each of them, I have highlighted that I want to work with the existing Commonwealth youth networks, the 13 youth networks that we have. For example, in my manifesto, I have mentioned about gender equality. Coming from a patriarchal society and establishing myself as a social impact entrepreneur, I myself have faced several challenges and have seen how patriarchy and misogynistic mindset can pose challenges for girls and women across the Asian region in particular. So I have actually mentioned in my manifesto that I want to relaunch, just like Nafula has done in African region, but the women's mentorship scheme has not been implemented in Asian region yet. So that is something that I want to do, because I, being a mentor myself for multiple young girls and women, and I have been a mentee as well, I have seen the importance of mentorship programs. When it comes to climate change, which is another policy priority in my manifesto that I've highlighted, I would like to work with the Peace Network, for example. When it comes to entrepreneurship and youth employment, I'll very closely work with the Entrepreneur Alliance in the Commonwealth. When it comes to mental health and well-being, there is the Commonwealth Youth Health Network, who I'm already working in. In fact, in the Commonwealth, there is this new campaign that we are working on very closely with the Health Network, which is ending cervical cancer across the Commonwealth. This is something I'm a core part of. And then working on mental health and well-being, global citizenship and peace building with the Peace Ambassadors Network. So I see a lot of opportunities to bring these youth networks together and really complement each other's strengths and fill up each other's weaknesses. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that, Shomi. We now move to the very final question. What 3 goals do you want to have achieved by the end of your mandate in 2023? If you were able to be elected, what will your milestones look like? Please go ahead, Shomi.
Thank you. Well, for the short term, I would like to engage the countries in Asian region who have not yet felt completely engaged or feel left out, such as countries like Maldives and Brunei and Singapore, as I have mentioned before. And I would like to strengthen the national youth councils in the different Asian countries of the Commonwealth, and the countries where there is not any existing national youth council or any functional national youth council. I would like to engage with the relevant stakeholders to make sure that they're working again and they're given the proper resources. I'll work with the vice chairs of the council and use my personal global network to bring in the resources that they need to build their skills and capacities so that they can become fully functional national youth councils. For example, right now, our national youth delegates, most of them are delegated by the different governments, which is not supposed to be. It is supposed to be the young people they are supposed to represent. And as a matter of fact, there is there is a risk of being politically biased if there is no if the agenda of the government doesn't lie. So I really want to make sure that young people are well represented. They can decide who they want to who should represent them. So this is something I want to work meaningfully engage those countries and functionalizing the national youth councils in the Asian region. The second goal would definitely be to increase more cross cultural collaboration across the different Commonwealth youth networks and bring in opportunities for not only Asian region, but also the other young people across the Commonwealth in the other regions. And thirdly, my long-term goal would definitely be completing the ideas that I have put forward in my manifesto in terms of my 5 policy priorities. Thank you, Franz.
All right, thank you very much. Over to you, Faiza.
Thank you, Franz. The 3 goals for me to achieve is number 1, to establish the National Youth Council in all the 8 Asian countries, because India and Bangladesh still doesn't have a National Youth Council mechanism, and also to support the National Youth Councils of the existing National Youth Councils to strengthen their mechanism. That's number 1. Number 2 would be delivering cross-regional programs and also bilateral programs, because Asia and Africa needs to connect, Asia Pacific needs to connect, Asia Caribbean needs to connect. We need to go with all the regions. Asia and Europe has to connect. So I would go with that vision, that connecting, collaborating, and cooperating with each other and delivering cross-regional platforms. It's just not only limited to cross-regional. We can also pick certain countries. Say, for example, Bangladesh and Mauritius can have a joint program on bilateral level of youth engagement. Pakistan and Kenya can have a joint program within their shared spaces of common realities. So that is another thing that I want to achieve. And the last thing is to focus on the thematic 6 areas of my manifesto and to find out, because I'm a realistic leader, I want to hear from everyone's priority, and on those 6 thematic areas, I want to address them, and I want to launch campaign to relaunch and revamp the past campaigns that has been stopped. We have seen Commonwealth Youth Summit happening only once, and that was never repeated before. So what is actually the youth engagement mechanism? Can we just wait for one CYF to happen every after 2 years, or there should be a repeated mechanism of youth engagement process across the regions? So these are the things I definitely want to connect. Lastly, I would like to say that as if elected as an Asia regional rep and also as an NYD, I would respectfully disagree with what my fellow candidate Shomi has said. It is important to have the youth representation from all levels, but it is important to bring the legitimacy by the youth who are the NYDs over here. All the NYDs who are taking time to watch this, they all are the official endorsed representation of their countries because of the amazing work that they have done. So we cannot just sideline the NYDs. We need to work together. Of course, the NYDs are the key the gateway for us to connect with the larger youth and the grassroots youth, because they also come from their youth activism platform and background. And that's why I take a cohesive approach, leaving no one behind, an inclusive Commonwealth, a connected Commonwealth. Thank you, friends.
All right, thank you very much. That concludes the questioning for the candidates in this Asian region representative hustings. Both candidates will now have the opportunity to give conclusive remarks. Faiza, you were the last one speaking, so you now have the opportunity to go ahead and do so. You may begin.
Thank you, Franz. First, I would like to thank Pega, Eileen, and you for doing this entire arrangement and helping us that process. I would like to thank the audience and the NYDs for connecting. For the last 3 weeks, connecting with the NYDs and fellow candidates have been a rewarding experience for me. And I have learned so much through this process, and I wish to continue this engagement. So there is this old African proverb that goes saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And as I believe in connectivity, I believe if elected as an Asia rep, my approach will be working together with my team and engage across regions. This is a teamwork, and I want to move forward with all of you, continue involving all the NYDs in the process, and build on the foundation laid by the past executives. My journey starts from where the outgoing Asia rep ended, because of last 3 years, I worked with Qasim as part of the CYC team, and I acknowledge the shortcomings. Hence, I commit to solve them with my expertise and experience. This is for the first time Bangladesh will be part of the CYC Executive Committee. So this is not your choice between 2 people. This is your choice to make an informed decision about stronger representation of the region. Also, who can bring Commonwealth together, working with other regions. I believe my vision of connectivity, collaboration, and cooperation rightly reflects on it, and my enriched experience in CYC space takes me one step forward for a head start. If you believe in multilateral and bilateral engagement, if you want to have the connected Commonwealth truly, the vote of confidence I would like to secure from your end, all the NYDs and all the people in Commonwealth, for Fahmida Faiza as the next Asia regional representative, because I come with this vision. I have been tried, tested, and trusted. From a decade-long learning, I am now ready to lead with all of your support. I would sincerely thank all of you for your valuable time that you have invested to make your choice for the next Asia regional representative and have engaged with this hosting. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that, Faiza. Please go ahead, show me.
Thank you, Franz. It definitely has been an amazing dialogue where we got to learn about each other's mission and vision. Just to clarify in this last 2 minutes to my esteemed candidate, Fahmida Faiza, that I have not talked about sidelining the national youth delegates. I was only referring to the constitution of the Commonwealth Youth Council, where it mentions that all executives need to be well versed in. And when it comes to national youth delegate, I just mentioned that instead of coming it from the government itself, it can also come from the national youth councils, so that they can feel that they are well represented. They can choose who they want to represent without having any other government agenda in mind. So that is really what I said. I did not mention about sidelining the NYDs. Of course, NYDs are a very core component, which is why I have been mentioning about consulting with them on a regular basis and having them involved throughout my tenure. Just to end up, I would like to mention to all the audience that I bring integrity, competences, global connectedness, and the ability to bridge resources from outside the Commonwealth to inside the Commonwealth. And the opportunities that I bring are not only for Asian youth, but also for the youth of the Pan-Commonwealth. And given that my fellow opponents, Fahmida Faiza's tagline or slogan, campaign slogan has been Connected Asia, and she has gotten the chance to serve in the Commonwealth Youth Council region, Asia Regional Subcommittee for 3 years, yet she has been looking for an opportunity to connect Asia. I would like to take this opportunity to serve this role and make sure that Asia is connected with other regions as well. I am a person who is strongly values working and not just talking. So walking the talk is my mantra. So if you vote for Show Me, you vouch for action. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. And at this point, we have concluded the hustings itself. We want to just say thank you very much to both candidates for making the time, for being respectful, not just to each other, but also to the values that we are bounded by as not just Commonwealth youth, but Commonwealth citizens. We also want to say thank you very much to the back-end team for doing all the back-end work. We want to thank you, all the national youth delegates who attended, who made the time. I know that national youth delegates are coming from different time zones. So for those who would have had to get up early, we thank you. Those who would have had to sacrifice work or school or even your lunch breaks, time with family, whatever it is that you had to do to attend, or even staying up late, we thank you for doing so. And so I just want to remind everyone that hostings continue with remaining positions. Also, candidates will continue their campaigning until the 23rd of May, and the elections are scheduled to take place on the 24th to the 25th. So it is suggested that national youth delegates, you take time to familiarize yourself with the CYC's structure, its constitution, its operations, its strengths, shortcomings. Look to see what the context that the CYC operates in is like, and most of all, try to examine the candidates, not just through the hosting recordings, but also through their manifestos, their CVs, and other campaign material. Now, at the end of the day, please understand the importance of choosing these candidates. Although you all may be encouraged to vote along certain agendas, certain political lines, national lines, regional lines, etc., we hope that you would make a choice that would reflect who the most competent, equipped candidate will be for the different positions. So Without further ado, I just want to wish everyone all the best. All the best to you candidates in your campaigning. All the best to you national youth delegates as you would be making your decisions. We thank you all for everything. And I want to wish you all a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, and a good night. Take care.